Okay, we have the Sign Lingo team up next. It's a really cool app. And then Team Reel, which is also a really cool app. Man, it's just, everything's just amazing. The bar is always getting raised. Team Reel's on deck with Kyla. So Jackson, if you want to go ahead and queue yourself up from Sign Lingo and get your screen share ready and unmute yourself and get ready to present Team Reel, you're on deck.
Awesome. Okay, we're ready to go. Sign Lingo team. So I'll introduce our team first. So Kendra doubled as our stakeholder and our UX designer. Michael was our team lead. And then Wesley, Cooper, Ryan made up our data science team. And Chris, Bryan, Natalia, and I made up the web team. So that was our team. We had 9 members working on this build on project. We are the 3rd team to iterate on it. And here's our app, Sign Lingo. So Sign Lingo is an app created to help an individual learn sign language. Initially, the apps available or the resources available to learn sign language, the ones that are already out there are a bit dated or blocked behind a paywall. So we wanted to create a way to learn sign language that was free, it was easy, and it was fun.
So before a new user is able to start using Sign Lingo with us, they'll first need to be registered. Previously, our app's registration and login flow was based on JSON web tokens, storing all the necessary information on our backend. But for one of our release canvases, we decided that we would switch it out for Okta, a third-party module that handles auth for us so that we're not handling any sensitive information like the user's email or password on our end. We're just storing the Okta ID. Since Okta had the drop-in widget, we were hoping that would be easier to implement, but this wasn't really the case. As we researched the topic, we were getting more and more lost in the complexity thanks to the different flows we could use from Okta, and the extra layer of abstraction didn't really help either. It wasn't really until we decided to use the implicit flow as a team that we started to make some steady progress.
All right, so we are the 3rd cohort to work on Sign Lingo. During our research and planning phase, we determined that changing our database schema would improve the scalability and simplicity of Sign Lingo for future developers. We accomplished this by reducing a schema that had 17 tables into a schema with just 4. To manage the new data effectively, this change required us to refactor both the front-end and back-end repositories. So as you can see, we have logged in and are currently at the dashboard. Our app has 5 levels, each representing 5 to 6 letters of the alphabet. Our team inherited the flashcard section of a level from the previous cohort and was able to build on it by developing the exercises and quiz sections of levels. Now, this is where the fun begins. So let's begin learning by entering the flashcard section. This is where users become familiar flipping flashcards to learn the signs of that level. To advance, users need to click each flashcard at least one time, and once they feel confident enough, they can click Finish and return to the dashboard.
After you're done with flashcards, it's time to practice. For this, we created multiple choice exercises. There are 2 types of questions for each letter. One version has letter options to choose an answer from, with a picture displaying the sign you will need to guess. And the other question shows 4 images of signs as potential answers, and you will need to select the one as an answer. Each time you are starting an exercise, question will show up in random order. Options to choose from will be random too, but no worries, the correct answer will be there. On top of the screen, you can see a progress bar which shows how much work is left to do. Next to the progress bar, you can see the amount of lives you have left. You'll start with 3, which means that if you answer wrong 3 times, you'll need to start from the beginning. If you nail this part, you can move on. The last part of a level will test the user's competence in signing what they learned. The user will grant access to Sign Lingo to use the camera in order to send the video to Data Science API to assess for accuracy. The Data Science API will respond with a result, and the next question can appear. If a user passes every question, we can move to the next level. Now let's hear from our data science team about their model.
To understand the direction that data science team took, it's important to recognize a few things. Firstly, sign language is more complex than other forms of natural language. It's what's called multi-channeled. So that means that meaning can not only be conveyed through hand shape, but it's also conveyed through hand position relative to the body, facial gestures, speed, suddenness of the gesture, and can even be carried through a series of signs. Secondly, after researching more complex forms of modeling that could capture these elements, we found they would have been much more complex to implement, and even the performance of the state-of-the-art wasn't to the point where it would be good from a user-friendliness standpoint. Also, we are teaching in a more modular style, so it didn't make sense for us to try to implement a more general state-of-the-art model, so we opted for a simpler object detection model. And even if we decided to go for state-of-the-art, we lack a large-scale data set, so we couldn't even implement that if we wanted to. But before we dive into specifics on the model and the data set challenges, I'll briefly go over the tech stack. So as for the tech stack we're using, we deployed a Flask API in Docker to AWS Elastic Beanstalk, and the model predictions on our API side are handled by a darknet implementation of TensorFlow in OpenCV. With that, I'll throw it over to Ryan to talk about the model.
So as you can see, Jackson is beautifully presenting the app at work. That is a live feed. This isn't a video recording. Actually, if you can open up the console real quick so they can see the predictions live for us. And if you don't mind trying to get a correct one, I'm confident that it's going to work. There we go. So we got one prediction back, 83% confidence that it was an A. If you don't mind trying one more just to show that this isn't fake or anything like that. Try to get it wrong though. Let's do like a W or V or whatever, just so it gets a prediction but doesn't get the right one. W, 54%. So as you can see, it does work completely live. It doesn't work well if it's in the dark or whatnot. You still kind of need to be in a good position and whatnot. But if you don't mind, Jackson, I'm going to steal the screen from you. So to get the model working that well, we had to do a lot of work. Probably the biggest mountain that we had to overcome was the data. We had a huge issue we were using a Kaggle data set that was pretty much all one picture. So it was overgeneralizing very quickly and we weren't getting good predictions. So the team banded together and we got over 11,000 photos of ourselves that we individually bind-boxed. Took roughly 13 hours just for this final iteration. This is kind of an example of what we had to go through with every single one of these images. But the final result is going to be something like this. This is one of our validation videos. As you can see, sometimes there are double predictions, but the main prediction that you're seeing is the one that would be returned. So an O and a D would be there, but it did predict D 100%, F, and so on. We used a convolutional neural network. It was a pre-built model. We used YOLO specifically for its performance. We were having, originally we were using a more complex model that when we had multiple users, concurrent users, was returning very slowly. We were getting predictions back in about 6 seconds, if I remember correctly. With the newer model that we ran, it was looking. I think we get returns back in under a second. And as we continue to get better and better data, the model is able to predict more accurately and faster as well. So that is the basis of Sign Lingo.
All right. Wow, it's fun to see how that has evolved, and especially on the data science side, and even in the application itself. So, Ryan, why don't you go ahead and kick us off with some conversation feedback?
Yeah, talk to me. This question is more for the data science team. What would it take to add something like transcription to this product, so you were able to produce signs and then have the app just write down what you were saying?
The complexity of that, so because it's object detection, every single one of these, we're actually grabbing frames, so it's not real time. To do transcription based off of lettering would probably be pretty simple, but obviously not very efficient. There are already other methods, as I mean, typing on a phone and sending it would be just as probably even faster. So the practical application is obviously there, but
right. But this is computer science land, man. We don't care about practicality. We care about if it's cool, and that would be super cool.
It would be. It would be. For the alphabet, it would be extremely easy.
Cool.
We ultimately took away the way for them to see that they're doing an A, because you want to know that you're doing it correctly, and then getting those results. If you can see it real time while you're doing it, it's kind of cheating in a way. So
yeah, that might be good, like a training, like a sandbox mode or something, where you just like open signing, and then it kind of tells you what letter you're closest to.
We did talk about that, having like a freestyle where it'll just like spit a letter, and you got a second to spit it back. So
yeah, like rapid fire. That'd be cool. Okay. All right, I got another question this is for the web team. So you said something that really caught my attention during the presentation, that you refactored your database from 17 tables to 4 tables, and that was a performance improvement. And that's typically not the direction that performance improvements on databases go. So I want you to walk me through like what that change was, or maybe give me an example of a table that you deprecated or condensed into another table and how that improved your performance.
I can start, and then if any of the other web team wants to jump in, feel free to do so. So originally, if I can think back correctly to the previous schema, I believe there was a table for each level. And we assumed if we created one table that could house all of the levels, it would be easier to add levels in the future and make it more scalable. That being said, I recognize I'm a student, and that could be something that maybe we didn't do it perfectly. That's some of our feedback for that, for me at least.
I can add, the thing is, when we opened database, how it was set up, we saw lots of code which actually repeat itself, because it wasn't just tables for each level. It was extra table for flashcards inside level 1, extra table for quiz inside level 1, and so on and so on and so on. And for each of these tables was separately endpoints written down, which literally repeating each other, and it was like a lot of code for some simple thing. And we went to the point that we will create one table for our levels, where for each level we'll store just information about if user completed this part of the level or not, like if he completed quiz, if he completed flashcards, and that's it. And if you want to increase this application and add new levels and add new functionality, we'll just add in this level, in this table, extra line for this new level, and that's it. And we already have endpoints for this. We don't need to write it more.
That sounds great. That sounds like a great change. Overall, I think this app is awesome. I've been a big fan of this app for a long time, and you've done just fantastic, tremendous work. This is really, really, really cool stuff. Really cool stuff. Really proud of this one. Great work.
Awesome. Sasha.
Yeah, my first question to the team would be, what are some of the most important things that you took away from working as a team for several weeks? What did you learn along the way?
I fell in love to work in a team, because before that I was like, I like to work on my own thing, my own way, but it's so helpful when you have a team and you kind of can split stuff you need to do and be busy with some stuff you like and you're good at, and some stuff which you're kind of not very good, to give somebody who really good at it, and it's increased speed of producing product, and you can learn from each other. And for me personally, it was a great experience, and it does change the way how I see this profession.
Yeah, for our team during labs, we mostly worked together on each feature pretty much. So we just mob programmed almost every day, really. And I think that really helped us like see how other people are thinking on the same team.
Yeah, I would agree with that. we found like if we tried to split work up, then when we would come back to meet together, we'd have to kind of break down what we did and try to not get the other side's approval, but it was just easier to work as a team and like live share and just knock out everything and discuss it point by point. And without Okta, I don't even know what we could have accomplished with this app, because Okta took like half the time.
Speaking on behalf of the data science side, we did exactly the same thing. We were pretty much from the start of Lambda until the wee hours of the next morning, just grinding it out. Specifically with the last couple weeks with all the little monotonous bind boxing. I know all of their faces better than they probably know their own currently.
That's awesome to hear. Great to hear that you guys had a positive experience with one another and found some good flows there. In terms of the product itself, great, easy login there. The design is beautiful. It's playful in an engaging way. Absolutely loved it. And I am so impressed by the video recognition, given the time frame that you had to work that out. That's, I mean, like, this is a product that I could easily see on the App Store and see myself actually purchasing, because it just looks so legitimate and the functionality of it is up to that level. So huge props on that. And then in terms of the overall presentation, I just want to call out that you all handled the transition of multiple speakers really, really seamlessly, which is not always easy to do. So that speaks to your preparation for this as well. And congrats. Again, also a really, really great product.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sharks. Thank you so much, Sign Lingo team. Amazing stuff. And yes, I would definitely agree. Amazing product. You should be very proud of your work, and excited and eager to talk about it with future potential employers, and friends and family, and anyone who's interested in your life, because this is really cool.